There are prisons that have no iron bars, no stone walls. Their guards are invisible, and their chains are forged from the most subtle of materials, thoughts. And it was in such a prison that a young man named Lucas lived. To the outside world, Lucas was a natural talent, a freelance graphic designer whose strokes danced across the screen, whose colors sang in perfect harmony. He possessed the skill, the gift, the creative spark that many search for a lifetime and never find. But within himself, in the silence of his own mental kingdom, Lucas was not a creator. He was a prisoner. His mind was ruled by a relentless tyrant, the voice of doubt. A voice that whispered in his ear with every new project. You are not good enough. They will find out you are a fraud. Accept any offer, for you deserve no more than that. We find him now in one of these silent battles. On the other side of the screen, in a video call, a potential client praises his work. Lucas, this is simply brilliant, exactly what I wanted. A brief moment of pride warms Lucas's chest, but it is quickly frozen by what comes next. However, our budget is a bit tight. Can we close for half of your asking price? And there it is, the test, the crossroads. His entire being screams for him to defend his value, to honor his talent. But the voice of the inner tyrant is louder. The fear of rejection, the fear of losing the opportunity, however small, paralyzes him. We see the conflict on his face, the surrender in his shoulders. Of course, yes, we can make that work, he mutters, the sound of defeat in his own voice. The call ends, the silence returns, and the only thing left in the air is the bitter taste of regret and the confirmation of the lie he told himself, that he was not worth more. And this, my friends, is the battlefield where the X of mentality is truly tested and defined. Not in the great arenas of the world, but in the silent dialogue we have with ourselves. If this internal battle feels familiar to you, if you have ever felt like a prisoner of your own limiting thoughts, then understand that the door to this prison can only be opened from the inside. The first step is the decision to fight for your freedom. It is an act of will. If you are ready to take that first step in your own life, do it now. Transform intention into a physical act. Subscribe to this channel, not to help us, but as a declaration to yourself that you will no longer be a prisoner in your own mind. But every long night has an end, and every great journey of transformation begins with a moment when the pain of remaining the same becomes greater than the fear of change. And for Lucas, that moment was about to arrive. The days that followed that fateful client call were a slow descent into a quiet despair for Lucas. Each new project felt heavier. Each interaction was tainted by the memory of his own surrender. The tyrant in his mind, the voice of doubt, grew bolder with every passing hour, replaying his failures, mocking his talents, and painting a bleak picture of his future. He had reached what many would call rock bottom, a place of profound disillusionment where the fire of ambition dwindles to a faint, flickering ember, threatening to be extinguished forever. It was on one such evening, aimlessly scrolling through the internet in a state of numb resignation, that fate intervened. He was not searching for answers anymore. He had all but given up. But the great universal laws are always in motion. An algorithm, perhaps, or what some might call synchronicity, placed a video before him. The title was simple, yet it seemed to cut through the noise of his inner turmoil. It spoke of a man named Napoleon Hill and the almost unbelievable power of human thought. Skeptical, Lucas clicked. He listened as a calm, authoritative voice began to explain a principle he had never encountered before: autosuggestion. The narrator explained that the subconscious mind, the sleeping giant within us all, does not know the difference between a real physical experience and an idea that is repeatedly fed to it with deep feeling and emotion. The voice spoke of how any thought held persistently in the mind and charged with faith must eventually clothe itself in its physical equivalent. It was a staggering concept, that we are not victims of our circumstances, but architects of them through the blueprints we impress upon our subconscious. Lucas's first reaction was resistance. The tyrant within him scoffed, calling it nonsense, a simplistic fantasy for the desperate. "This will never work for you," the old voice whispered. But then another thought, a new and quieter one, emerged from the depths of his despair. What do I have to lose? The pain of his current reality, the constant feeling of being undervalued and paralyzed by fear, had finally become greater than his skepticism. In that moment, a decision was made. Not a loud, dramatic vow, but a quiet, resolute choice in the sanctuary of his own heart. He would conduct an experiment. He would challenge the tyrant. He would attempt to see if this incredible claim held any truth. And so, with nothing but a flicker of desperate hope, Lucas decided to take the first step. His task now was to forge the very words that he hoped would one day forge a new reality for him. This was the beginning of his true transformation. And so, Lucas began his great experiment. His task, as he understood it from that video, was to systematically feed his subconscious mind a new idea of himself, an idea directly opposed to the tyrant of doubt that had ruled him for so long. He stood before his bathroom mirror, his heart pounding. He was to repeat his new truth aloud, to give it the power of spoken word. He took a breath and tried to speak. "I am, confident," but the words caught in his throat. His own reflection seemed to mock him. The old voice, the tyrant, screamed with laughter inside his head. "A fool talking to himself," it jeered. "Nothing has changed. You are still weak. You are still worthless." The shame was so intense he could not continue. This, my friends, is where most people quit. They attempt to challenge a lifetime of negative programming with one or two half-hearted efforts, and when the old resistance pushes back, they surrender, believing the method has failed. But Lucas, in his desperation, remembered a key detail from the teaching. The subconscious mind responds to any idea that is repeated with feeling and faith. If he could not yet speak it with feeling, perhaps he could write it with intention. He sat down at his desk, took out a clean sheet of paper, and with a hand that still trembled slightly, he began to forge his new reality. He did not write a hopeful wish. He wrote a statement of fact, a description of the man he was determined to become. He wrote, "I am a graphic designer of immense talent and extraordinary value. I am confident and capable. I create work that inspires my clients, and they are happy and eager to pay my full price for the value I provide. I am in complete control of my financial and mental destiny." He placed this paper by his bedside. Every night before sleep and every morning upon waking, he would read it. At first, it still felt like a lie. The tyrant still raged. But Lucas persisted. Day after day, he performed this simple ritual. He was engaging in the principle of autosuggestion, impressing a new, more powerful blueprint upon the fertile soil of his subconscious mind. For days, nothing seemed to happen in his outer world. The internal battle continued. But what Lucas did not yet realize was that with every repetition, the voice of his new affirmation grew a little stronger, a little clearer. He was planting seeds in darkness, trusting a process he barely understood. And the first sign of life was about to break through the surface. This first step, the act of writing down your new reality, is often the most courageous one. It is a declaration of war against your old limitations. And if you feel this call to action in your own life, you can take that step now. This is not just a video, it is a workshop for your soul. Go to the comments and declare your own first step by writing, "I am the architect of my mind." This is not just a comment, it is your first building block. For 2 weeks, Lucas held fast to his new ritual. He read his statement of purpose every morning and every night, flooding his mind with this new concept of himself. And though the battle against the old tyrant of doubt still raged within, something was subtly shifting. He was planting seeds in darkness, trusting a process he barely understood, unaware that the soil was beginning to stir. And the first sign of life was about to break through the surface. The test arrived in the form of an email, a new inquiry from a reputable company he had long admired. It was a project perfectly suited to his talents, a potential turning point for his career. As he read the project brief, his heart filled with creative excitement, but this was immediately followed by the cold grip of the old fear. The tyrant's voice was instant and sharp. "This is too big for you. They'll never pay what you want. Ask for less. Just get your foot in the door. Don't lose this." His fingers hovered over the keyboard, ready to type out the same self-defeating, discounted offer he had made so many times before. But then, his eyes caught the note on his desk, the statement he had written and read over and over. "I am a designer of immense talent and extraordinary value. I attract clients who respect my work and are happy to pay my full price." He paused. He closed his eyes. He took a deep breath and, for the first time, recited the words internally, not as a desperate plea, but as a quiet command. A subtle shift occurred within him. Not a wave of absolute confidence, but a small, firm kernel of self-respect. He opened his eyes, and with a resolve he hadn't felt in years, he typed his reply. He quoted his full, fair price, without apology, without justification. He described his value with calm certainty. He hit send. His heart hammered in his chest. The silence that followed was deafening. He had faced the tyrant and refused to bow. Hours passed, stretching into an eternity of self-doubt. Then an email notification chimed. It was the reply. With a trembling hand, Lucas opened it. The message was brief. "Thank you for the quote, Lucas. The price is fine. We're excited to work with you. When can we start?" Lucas read the words once, then twice. It was not a shout of victory that escaped him, but a quiet, breathless laugh of disbelief and profound relief. It wasn't about the money, it was the proof, the undeniable external validation of an internal shift. For the first time, he had truly believed in his own value, and the world had no choice but to reflect that belief back to him. This first victory was a crack of light in the walls of his mental prison. And with proof, faith is no longer a desperate hope, but an emerging certainty. That first victory, that one successful negotiation, was more than just a financial gain for Lucas. It was the first crack of light in the walls of his mental prison. It was proof. And with tangible proof, faith is no longer a desperate hope. It becomes an emerging certainty. The old tyrannical voice of doubt did not vanish overnight, but for the first time, it had been challenged with undeniable evidence, and it began to lose its power. This is the nature of the mind. It seeks to create patterns. For years, Lucas had fed it a pattern of fear and self-deprecation, and his reality dutifully conformed. Now he had introduced a new pattern, a pattern of courage and self-worth. And like a single drop of rain that can start a river, this one small win began to build momentum. We see Lucas a few weeks later. He is invited to present his portfolio to a larger, more prestigious firm. In the past, an opportunity like this would have filled him with paralyzing terror. He still felt the familiar nervousness, the whisper of the old doubt, but something was different. Underneath the nerves, there was a quiet, steady current of his newfound confidence. He continued his daily ritual of autosuggestion, his statement of value now feeling less like a hopeful affirmation and more like a simple statement of fact. During the presentation, he did not just show his designs, he told the story behind them. He spoke with passion about his creative process, with authority about his choices. He was no longer a timid technician hoping for approval. He was a confident expert sharing his vision. The executives in the room were impressed not only by the quality of his work, but by the conviction with which he presented it. He was a different man. Here lies another profound secret. Success begets success. A positive mental attitude, fortified by proof, acts as a magnet. It does not just change how you feel, it changes how you act, how you carry yourself, and how others perceive and respond to you. By winning that first small internal battle, Lucas began an upward spiral. He had activated the law of harmonious attraction, drawing to himself opportunities that matched his new elevated state of mind. This power to build upon your wins is the very essence of what we teach at the X of Mentality. It is about creating intentional, positive momentum. And you can start this process right now. Go to the comments and share one small victory you will aim for this week. It does not matter how small. By writing it down, you are giving it power and starting your own upward spiral. Lucas was now on a new trajectory. His confidence was growing, and his income was beginning to reflect his true value. But soon he would face a challenge that his individual confidence alone could not solve. A challenge that would require him to learn another of life's great secret, the power of alliance. As Lucas's momentum grew, so did the scale of his opportunities. His newfound confidence, born from the deliberate application of autosuggestion, was a powerful magnet. It attracted a project so large, so prestigious, it was beyond anything he had ever dared to dream of. It was an opportunity to design the entire brand identity for a rapidly growing technology firm. He felt a surge of exhilaration, but it was immediately followed by a chilling wave of a familiar feeling: fear. But this was a new kind of fear. It was not the fear of being unworthy or untalented. It was the fear of limitation. The project required not only brilliant design, but also complex marketing strategy and web development coordination, skills that lay outside his area of expertise. He had reached a wall. He realized with a sinking feeling that his individual talent, no matter how great, had its limits. The old temptation to retreat, to turn down the opportunity, to avoid the risk of failure, began to whisper to him once more. But he was no longer the same man. Instead of surrendering to the fear, he returned to the source of his transformation, the timeless teachings of Napoleon Hill. It was there he rediscovered a principle he had previously overlooked, a secret used by every great industrialist and leader he had ever studied, the principle of the mastermind. He learned that no man achieves great success entirely by himself. He learned that a mastermind is the harmonious coordination of knowledge and effort between two or more people united by a definite purpose. And in that coordination, a third, invisible mind is created, a force of immense power and wisdom. He understood in a flash of insight that he did not need to possess all the required skills. He needed to form an alliance with those who did. His definite purpose was clear: to successfully deliver this project with excellence. Now he needed an ally. He thought of a freelance marketing strategist he had long admired online, a woman named Sarah, known for her sharp intellect and integrity. The old fear of rejection surfaced as he contemplated reaching out, but he met it head-on with his affirmation, with his newfound belief in his own value. He sent the message not as a desperate plea for help, but as a confident proposal for a powerful partnership. They met, they found their values in perfect harmony, and they formed an alliance. The designer and the strategist. Two minds, one purpose. With his new alliance formed, Lucas felt a power and a confidence he had never known. He was no longer a solo instrument, but part of an emerging symphony. However, their harmony would soon be tested. For every great project presents unforeseen obstacles, and it is in facing these trials together that the true strength of a mastermind is forged. As Lucas and Sarah began their work, their combined energy was formidable. Ideas flowed freely between them, and the project took shape with a brilliance that excited both them and their new client. But the path to great achievement is never a straight, untroubled road. It is often paved with unforeseen obstacles designed to test the resolve of those who dare to walk it. And their great test arrived swiftly and without warning. Halfway through the project, the client, facing new pressures from their own market, called for an emergency meeting. They announced a sudden and drastic shift in the core strategy of their brand. The news landed like a thunderbolt. Weeks of their meticulous work, designs, and strategies were now obsolete. The deadline, once reasonable, now seemed impossible. For a fleeting moment, the old Lucas surfaced. A wave of panic washed over him, and the tyrant's voice whispered, "I told you this was too big. Now you will fail, and you will take someone down with you." But this time, he was not alone. He looked across the table at Sarah. She was not panicked. She was focused. Her mind, trained in strategy, did not see a disaster. It saw a new problem with a new set of variables. This is the practical magic of the mastermind. Where one mind might falter in fear, the other provides stability. Where one sees a creative dead end, the other sees a strategic opportunity. They convened not in a spirit of blame or frustration, but in a spirit of absolute harmony, their focus locked on their definite purpose, to deliver excellence no matter the obstacle. In their discussion, the third mind came alive. Lucas, inspired by Sarah's strategic reframing, began to sketch new design concepts that were even more powerful and better aligned with the client's new direction. Sarah, fueled by Lucas's creative energy, devised an ingenious marketing angle to accompany the new brand identity. They were no longer just a designer and a strategist. They were a single, unified creative force. They worked with a persistence that was relentless. They faced long nights and complex challenges, but their shared belief in the project, and more importantly, in each other, never wavered. They were living proof of the principle that no obstacle can defeat two or more minds united in harmony for a definite end. They were not just weathering the storm, they were learning to harness its winds. And they were on the verge of not just a professional victory, but a profound spiritual one, born from the power of their alliance. Through their unified and persistent effort, Lucas and Sarah not only met the new deadline, but created a solution that was far superior to their original plan. They presented their new brand identity to the client with a shared, calm confidence. The result was not mere acceptance, it was overwhelming enthusiasm. The client was astounded by their resilience, their problem-solving ability, and the sheer brilliance of the final product. The project was a resounding success, far exceeding everyone's expectations. Lucas felt a sense of accomplishment so profound it was almost dizzying. This was not the fleeting pride he had felt before, but a deep, resonant feeling of earned victory. He had faced his limitations, sought help, weathered a storm, and emerged not just intact, but stronger. He understood now that the success was not his alone, nor was it Sarah's alone. It belonged to the third mind they had created together. And here they practiced one of the most powerful and often neglected principles of all great achievers. the principle of conscious gratitude. After the successful presentation, they sat together, not just to celebrate their win, but to acknowledge its source. Lucas expressed his genuine gratitude for Sarah's strategic mind and her unwavering stability when he felt fear. Sarah, in turn, expressed her sincere thanks for Lucas's creative genius and the courage he showed in proposing their alliance. They gave thanks for the challenge that had forced them to grow and for the wisdom they had been able to access through their harmonious partnership. Why is this so critical? Because gratitude completes the cycle of achievement. It is the act of consciously acknowledging the good received, which in turn conditions the mind to expect and attract more good. It solidifies the victory and magnetizes the mind for future opportunities. Without gratitude, a victory is just a single event. With gratitude, it becomes a stepping stone in an upward spiral. This act of acknowledging the good is a cornerstone of what we teach here at the X of Mentality. It is a recognition of the power that flows through us when we are aligned with positive principles. If you have felt the power of this story and are grateful for the insights, then express that energy. Press the like button now, not for us, but as a physical act of gratitude for your own capacity to learn and to grow. This victory was more than a single project. It was the birth of a new Lucas, a man who now understood not only how to command his own mind, but how to multiply his power with others. This was no longer just a series of techniques. It was becoming his very way of life. The great victory on that project was a turning point, but the true transformation for Lucas was not found in that single event. It was found in the man he had become in the process. The principles of Napoleon Hill were no longer a set of techniques he was trying out. They had become the very foundation of his new way of life, the core of his new identity. We now see a different Lucas. We see him calmly and respectfully declining a new project inquiry, not out of fear, but because it does not align with his definite purpose. We see him mentoring a younger designer who reminds him of his former self, sharing insights with a quiet confidence. His daily 5-minute ritual is no longer an act of desperate seeking, but one of serene and joyful communion. The tyrant of doubt has been dethroned, replaced by a wise and trusted inner counsel. The man who once trembled to state his price now negotiates major partnerships with grace and self-assurance. The man whose mind was a prison of fear and self-reproach now uses it as a sanctuary, a sacred space for creativity and divine connection. This is the inevitable result of the persistent application of definite, universal laws. Lucas did not simply change his habits, he changed his very nature by first changing his dominant thoughts. He rebuilt himself from the inside out. He understood now that success, true success, is not merely the accumulation of wealth or accolades. It is the continuous unfolding of one's own potential. It is the mastery of one's inner world so that the outer world cannot help but reflect that mastery back to you. He had found peace, he had found purpose, and he had found a strength he never knew he possessed. He had, in essence, discovered the X of his mentality. And so, Lucas had rebuilt his world. He had found success, confidence, and a profound sense of inner peace. But the universe, in its infinite wisdom, never bestows such a transformation for the benefit of one man alone. The final chapter of his journey was not about what more he could gain, but about what he was now finally ready to give. And so, we come to the final and most profound chapter of Lucas's journey. He had rebuilt his world from the inside out, achieving the confidence and success he once only dreamed of. But the universe, in its infinite wisdom, never bestows such a transformation for the benefit of one person alone. The true purpose of a faith that has been forged in the fires of adversity is not to be hoarded, but to be shared. The final chapter of any great story is not about what one can continue to gain, but about what one is now, finally, ready to give. We see Lucas one last time. He is not in a client meeting or at his design desk. He is standing on a small stage speaking to a room full of young, aspiring designers. Their faces a mixture of the same hope and fear he once knew so well. He is not teaching them about graphic design. He is sharing his story. He is teaching them about the power of their own minds, about the tyrant of doubt, and about the liberating secret of autosuggestion. He is telling them that their value is not determined by their clients, but by the beliefs they hold about themselves. In this moment, the cycle is complete. The student has become the teacher. The prisoner who found freedom is now showing others the key to their own selves. This is the ultimate law of all lasting success and spiritual attainment. That which you wish to keep, you must give away. The confidence, the wisdom, the faith that Lucas cultivated only reached their highest potential when he began to create a ripple effect, sharing his light with others. His story is a testament to a universal truth. The principles that transformed him are not exclusive to him. They are available to every single person who has the courage to apply them. They are available to you. Lucas's story is your potential story. His victory is the victory that awaits anyone who dares to take command of their own mind. This is the ultimate mission of the X of mentality. It is to guide you not only to find your own inner light, but to become a lighthouse for others. The time for living in the shadows of doubt is over. The time for you to claim your power and begin your own ripple effect is now. Therefore, I invite you one final time. Make the ultimate commitment to your own great legacy. Subscribe to this channel, and in doing so, declare that you accept your role as a source of strength and a beacon of light in the world. This is more than a click. It is the first step in your greatest mission. The story of Lucas is finished. Your story is just beginning. Activate the X within you.